2021. For context, I was at a small special education school at the time. In 2020, I was a 20-year-old man at the time, had a crush on this woman, 20 at the time. In December, we finally admitted we liked each other and we decided to make it official. As someone who had never had a girlfriend at the time, this seemed normal. I didn't know how dating worked and my diagnosed social anxiety makes it extremely difficult. I was so happy to have someone who liked me. It turned out that she was a manipulative puppyhead. After around 2 weeks, I texted, "Hey babe." A few messages later, what started as an innocent hi resulted in "I can't do this anymore" and that she was only with me to make up for her lack of self-love and so on. After I asked if she was breaking up, and she said, "I'm sorry." Then she blocked me. A month later, she apologized and tried to be my friend again. Unlike previously, I decided to take time to think instead of immediately crawling back to her. A week later, she starts to show her true colors. She gets another boyfriend that she never shut up about for months and was clearly trying to get to me. For additional context, I've also been writing poems since late 2020, mostly as a coping mechanism. But I wrote a total of 102 by the end of 2021. The second week was about her and trying to empathize. Starting during early 2021, the school let me show one of my poems each week. Flash forward to December. 1 year after the relationship started, I was showing my poems on Fridays, and the first Friday that December so happened to be exactly 1 year after our friendship started. She bursts into homeroom announcing that she just broke up with her boyfriend. Enter revenge. On that day, 13 e-poems later, I showed a poem about her to everyone. The title was her name, and I changed it to Daisy, and changed every place her name was in it. It was one of the few poems of her that showed any level of empathy. My friend read it out. Before he did, he asked me if I were sure I wanted to go through with it. I said yes, despite the fact that I was extremely anxious, which was causing my hands to shake so badly that I couldn't type. I tried to stall for a moment because E was getting her meds. Eventually, I couldn't stall any more and my friend read it. She came into the room when my friend was partway through. She sat down and immediately glanced at me. I was planning to wink when she inevitably looked at me, but my social anxiety stopped me. After she looked away, her hand shot up. After my friend finished reading, she asked, "Who's Daisy?" My eyes were locked on the table in front of me as I simply replied, "Classified." A couple weeks later, I showed the poem that I wrote to empathize with her. This resulted in her throwing a temper tantrum, a common occurrence. She didn't directly say that the poem upset her, but it was pretty obvious to me. Nobody except my friend and a few teachers knew who Daisy was. I had planned to show a month later that was more harsh. It was a duet called "I'm Sorry," where I paraphrased things she said to me for the first half, starting every sentence with "I" with an aggressive rebuttal from. It was still read, but unfortunately classes changed that week, so she never heard that one. I wish she had, because her reaction would have been priceless. Since I failed to place the final nail in the coffin, this wasn't the most pro-revenge, but it was so close, so I thought I'd share. 2. About a decade ago, I worked at a well-known bookstore as a seller of books. For anyone not aware, there were sections, duties that people were assigned to during shifts, and it changed frequently. It wasn't uncommon for shifts or duties to be swapped, relevant later in the story. There had been a recent change in management, and a fresh employee, Lexa, received a promotion to be an assistant manager despite having limited experience and quite the undeserved chip on her shoulder. Pretty sure she got the job because of her friendship with the departing AM whose position opened up. She was very much a delegator who spent a lot of time hanging out in the back office. I knew Lexa wasn't liked by a few of the veteran employees for the seemingly undeserved promotion. I was a part-timer going to school, so I wasn't invested in moving up or challenging the store leadership. Didn't make much of a difference to me. She and I got along just fine overall and usually exchanged pleasantries with bits of conversation. Until one day, I showed up to work, clocked in, and saw my department was kids. Ugh. I hated working in kids, as it was a Saturday, super packed, and the person I relieved was terrible at cleaning up whatever section she was assigned to. I called up Lexa and asked her if I could switch with another bookseller who liked working in kids, that also just clocked in. Before waiting for an answer, yes, partially my fault, I asked the bookseller if she would be cool with switching with me. Lexa, hearing me ask this question, yells over the phone, "No, you were assigned to kids, so go to your section." So I replied with a simple, "Okay." I go to my section, and as expected, it's a disaster. Books on the floor, kids running around, toys strewn about. It was exactly what I anticipated. I got right to work on recovering messed up shelves, making stacks of the books to return to their proper locations, and picked up toys and trash. I was a man on a mission. Wouldn't you know it, but apparently there were some shelves and furniture that needed to be moved around. I get a call on my store phone. It's Lexa, and she needs my help with said task. Mind you, there were enough people on the shop floor to help if she also left the back office to get it done. Her tone was much different, and she sweetly asked if I can leave kids to go help with the project. Well, kids is a mess. I was diligently working just to keep up with the unrelenting entropy due to the Saturday afternoon crowd. Could I have helped? Sure. Did I have an excuse not to? Sure did. I firmly repeated, "Sorry, I'm busy in kids. Nothing more, nothing less." The shift ended, and we went to go to the break room post-shift. Lexa talks to all of us and mentions how we need to remember to work as a team. Her demeanor was mildly sheepish, and she avoided making eye contact with me. I sat there, staring right at her with a dumb look on my face, pretending I don't know she's indirectly talking about me. I did find out from a couple of friends she did help out, which required her actually doing some work instead of hiding out. We never had any run-ins after that, and she moved a couple of months later. In any case, I worked my assigned section like she told me to. On the bright side, I cleaned up kids and organized it so well that the kids lead thanked me the next time we worked together. 3. For me, the best kind of revenge is the instant kind, when you get to throw things back into the other person's face due to their own misunderstanding. Let me explain. I was reading the Butter Battle book by Dr. Seuss to my kids. I tucked them in and sat thinking about Dr. Seuss. I remember watching a documentary about him. In it they mentioned how he disliked the English language, where OUGH makes an F sound and other bizarre spellings. This is why he makes up words with funny sounds, so that while kids are learning to read, they learn the phonetic sounds the letters make, instead of being confused by complicated spelling. So I was thinking, wouldn't it be funny if someone complained about the bizarre words in a very ironic way, so off to Facebook I go. I cannot remember the full post, it's since been deleted, so here's what I can remember. I just read a Dr. Seuss book to my kids, and I'm a little upset that he uses made-up words. He couldn't think of anything to rhyme, so he just makes up words that rhyme. Why do parents praise this man for being the best child book author? His literature is childish, and doesn't help kids read better. And then I added this little bit, he's probably not a real doctor anyways. It didn't matter if this went viral or nobody reads it. I thought it was funny and amused me for a few minutes. Fast forward a week. I go to Zephyr and his wife, Jerica's place. Let me describe Jerica real quick. This is important. She had diabetes that led to her leg being amputated, so she is confined in a wheelchair. Before this happened, she was the kind of woman who took nothing from anyone and didn't care what you thought of her. She was like a Karen, but in a good way. She lost her leg and became narcissistic and spiteful. For some reason that I will not get into right now, she became petty towards me. Why did I still hang out with her? For Zephyr. So I'm at their place and talking, and suddenly Jerica says, "So you haven't been on Facebook lately, huh?" She had that look of when someone is waiting for a package delivery. Zephyr goes, "Oh yeah, dude, you're going to cry." I looked at him. He had that "I'm so sorry" look. So Jerica loads up her Facebook and goes to my post and her comment. I thought, oh boy, what nonsense has she spewed this time. This is what I can recall of the comment. Dr. Seuss was a great and intelligent man. He went through college and studied English so he could become the greatest author. He accomplished a lot and more than you ever will. Do your research before you talk about one of the most iconic children's authors of all time before you make yourself look stupid. Not hard to do, though. Some research, huh? A quick Google search yields this. Dr. Seuss earned a bachelor's degree from Dartmouth College in 1925 and did some postgraduate studies in literature at Lincoln College, Oxford, and at the Sorbonne, but he did not earn a doctorate. He then became an illustrator and humorist for magazines before landing a career in advertising. Too bad I didn't think of this then, because I was too busy laughing my head off. What? Why are you laughing? Jerica looked like someone told her Santa wasn't real. He is, though. I looked at her and said, "Are you serious?" She cocks her head. Can't you tell irony when you see it? I purposefully said the opposite of what he did as a joke. You had such a hate boner for me that you shot down to the comments section and posted something without thinking and made yourself look like an ass. Not hard to do. She pouted, turned her wheelchair around, and tried to wheel herself out of her room, but got stuck. Zephyr helped her to her room while giving me an approving nod. 4. Years ago, I met my husband working in the pharmacy department of a major U.S. drug chain. We worked in separate stores. I was a supervisory pharmacy technician in my store, and he was a staff pharmacist in his. One of my duties was to oversee training of new pharm techs in our area and train existing techs to be supervisory techs. I would literally have to sign off on if the training certifying techs were ready to go to their stores and capable of doing their jobs. Both mine and my husband's pharmacies had great staffs, and were leaders in the district. Eventually, my store got a new store manager, Kay. For whatever reason, Kay decided that she wanted to engage in a little nepotism and help a fellow store manager's daughter become a supervisory tech. The problem was that the daughter wasn't even a good regular pharmacy tech, and we had just shipped her off to a slower store because she preferred texting her boyfriend in the back instead of filling prescriptions and refused to work her fair share of weekends. I told Kay that this girl would become a supervisory tech over my dead body. Pharmacy manager was totally behind me on this, as was the district farm tech supervisor. Kay then began a campaign of retaliation, and would write me up for the most mundane things ever. In fact, the only time in my career I was ever disciplined is when Kay was my manager. I think she was hoping to replace me with another supervisory tech who would help her with her goals. It didn't really bother me. I knew I was performing well, above expectations, and wasn't bothered by her being petty. Besides, replacing me with the daughter would hurt her way more than it would hurt me. I'm chilling at drive-thru one day, and one of my staff comes running in, grabs me and says, "Kay's getting transferred to your husband's store." My heart sank, because I knew she would be the kind of person to take things out on my husband. He's a very kind, non-confrontational man, and not one that would do well with the type of game-playing Kay enjoys. Sure enough, she starts writing him up for ridiculous things. She even went up to him one day and said, "Why are you married to South Style 134? She's fire, and you're ice. I just don't get why you like her." Hubbs was shook, and didn't really answer her. As a side note, the supervisory tech at my husband's store literally went to Kay one day, and told her that the daughter wouldn't be promoted there either. So Kay continues her campaign against me via my husband, until Valentine's Day. Now, I don't really care about Valentine's, so my husband doesn't go out of his way for it. Our stores usually sell red roses only for Valentine's, and the roses are featured in the weekly ad. Husband had made it his tradition to pick some up for me with a sweet card on his lunch break. This particular year, husband was going to do the usual, but couldn't find the flowers. He searched all over the store, and just as he's about to give up, and just get me candy or something else, he finds Kay talking with the district operations manager, Kay's boss. My husband goes over to both of them, looks at Kay and says, "Hey, where are the flowers from this week's ad?" Kay gets flustered and says, "We don't have any." Kay's boss asks if they sold out. She's forced to admit she didn't order any in the first place. Her boss is clearly annoyed and tells her to immediately call the neighboring store and get some of them. She had to drive an hour round trip to get flowers from the other store. She does make it back before her husband's shift is over, so he buys the first bouquet. He brings them home and tells me the real gift is the story of how he got them and embarrassed Kay in front of her boss. Epilogue? Kay was transferred yet again not long after this, so my husband was thankfully free of her. She was later asked to tender her resignation for a myriad of questionable practices, of which the flower incident was minor. But it's still fun to think that we may have started the process of exposing her for being subpar. Five. This started a few years ago, after I got ghosted by my ex. I decided to switch careers, and took the proposal of my brother to work for one of his friends in an organic grocery store in my area. I was 22-ish at the time, maybe 21 turning 22, but anyways, I started working in the fruits and vegetables aisle. Despite having a crazy director, I liked my job and my department manager. After a few months, I got the title of third key, which is basically I'm the assistant manager when the assistant is gone. Then they decided to hire a new customer service manager. That woman was crazy. While I was 23 at the time, she was only 20, acting like she owned the world. To give you an idea, in the span of 8 months being there, she got 11 employees fired for stupid reasons, and since our director at the time was just as crazy, it was easier for her to get her way. Also, when I say stupid reasons, I'll give you a few examples. One got fired because he was talking too loud in the break room, and it was disturbing her peace and supposedly making it harder for her to rest and come back fully ready to finish her shift. Another got fired because she had to take off work to go to a relative's funeral, and couldn't give her 2 weeks' notice. Another woman got fired because she was apparently getting too old to do her job properly, and it was ruining the pace of the team's work, which is BS. I have never seen someone cut veggies and fruits as fast as her. And I could go on. Yes, some of them could have been able to be protested against and even file a complaint against her. Mind you, outside of the older lady, everybody was too young to just want to fight for a grocery store job. Even the older lady decided to take her retirement earlier, and left the work world behind. Anyways, she took it too far when she tried to mess with me. To give you context, we had a huge special on lemons, and sometimes those fruits can get rotten, and you don't notice it because there's no smell. The only way you'd know is by going through the several small boxes of like 10-ish lemons, and looking at them one by one, which I did regularly, but hey, I'm not a robot. Sometimes some of them slipped out of my eyes. I was leaving the back store with more boxes when I saw her with a customer that seemed more than angry. So I go to see both of them because, mind you, she has a lemon box and I work in the fruits department, so it's kind of my job if I can help. That's when I asked her, "Hey, do you need help with the lemons?" Right away she told me to F off. "I don't need your help. I already spoke to your manager. Go do your job for once." My face was somewhat shocked as I went to my department. Even the angry customer did a bombastic side-eyes. A few minutes later, I go back to the back store to fulfill the missing products, and my manager pulls me aside. "AOP, stay out of her business. I can't protect you all the time for talking back." I stopped him right away by asking what does he mean, because as soon as she told me to go away, I did. He looked at me surprised and said he'd come back to me with it, but only tomorrow because he's finishing his shift and for some personal reason he can't stay longer to solve the issue. Since she was the manager on guard that night, he told me to stay in the back as much as possible, to stay in her good graces. That's what I did. 1 hour after my manager left, I heard my name being called in the front office, shared by the customer service manager and director. Big WTF. I go in the front and all of my colleagues are looking at me like I'm a prisoner going to their death sentence. Mind you, I know my laws and my rights. I might be young, but as soon as I got called, I started reciting in my head the main laws and rights she has to respect. I open the door to the office, and she's fuming. And she is alone. She asks me to close the door, and I tell her, no, it is my right to have someone in the room with me for this talk. I'm not comfortable being alone with you. She starts freaking out and starts to speak louder, on the verge of screaming. This room is recorded 24/7, I remind her, and the customers can hear you talking to me like that. Lower your tone and find a witness to be in the room or I'll go back to work. She stands up to look outside the office and sees that indeed there is a lion in front of the cash looking to the office's direction. She takes a few deep breaths and calls for someone else who is taking care of the finances of the store so that she can be a witness. From the moment they got into the room, they seemed like they wanted to get away. So did I. The witness took a seat, and then the manager started her whole speech. I'll be paraphrasing because the meeting took almost an hour. You know why I brought you here, right? Not really. I've been in the back store minding my business. Why? Well, you disrespected my authority in front of a customer, and that's a big no-no for the company. For the company or for you? OP, this is not the topic. You shouldn't be disrespecting authority in front of customers. It makes the managers look bad. I was honestly just trying to help because you had a box of products from my department. I just wanted to help because the customer looked angry, and I didn't want him to ruin your fragile mood. My fragile mood? Are you serious? We are being recorded and we have a witness, I reminded her. I'm asking you to stay polite and not scream, or I will file a complaint against you.
Are you threatening me?
No, I'm stating my rights and making you aware of where your attitude will lead you. I won't accept being talked to like that by someone that ain't even my manager.
OP, let me remind you where your position stands in this business.
She then started to draw a triangle, put her name at the tippity top and mine at the bottom. I didn't even let her finish what she had to say. I stormed out of the office, went into the employees' lockers, took my stuff, and headed out. She ran after me, yelling like a psycho,
You can't leave like that! You're still scheduled for the close!
I stood on my steps, making her almost run into me, and said with the most blank expression, You have crossed a line, and since you're so good at your job, close my department for me. I will be filing a complaint against you. And left the workplace. Next morning, I came to work as usual and had to see my manager and the director. I explained the whole situation and showed the papers I was about to send to file a complaint. Also, this idiot didn't even throw her pyramid in the trash. It was still on display when the director came into work and asked me what it was. I asked her to look at the cameras, put the sound on, and listen to the whole meeting. We watched it to my director's horror, and who came in to work in the middle of our screening time? Well, she came into the office and turned white as a ghost, which was an impressive feat for her. I've never seen her so pale.
What are you doing?
The director asked her to sit down, and we watched the video again. Mind you, it took us 1 full hour to watch because she was in a never-ending power trip. She used to be smart when she was bullying and making up stories about past employees, doing it far from the cameras and usually using the other office that doesn't have cameras or a microphone. But she wasn't with me. I guess she got comfortable or whatever, but checkmate on her. My director said I could go back to work with my manager, that she would take care of the rest. 2 weeks later, that manager still had her job, but our director resigned from her job right away. Which was hella weird, but whatever. We got a new director. She was a total sweetheart and noticed the crazy power trips right away. She launched an internal investigation, but sadly, all the employees that were bullied were fired. There was only me and my little complaint waiting to be served. When our new director came to me, asking if I knew anything about the situation, I gave her the file, the timestamps, and the videotape. All the employees she fired for stupid reasons, with the old director, and also phone numbers of those employees. Flash forward 2 weeks later. Our wicked manager left work earlier, bawling her eyes out, yelling how our new director was a bitch and didn't deserve her job, how she always came in earlier, put in the work, and yada yada. Our new director waited a few more days before asking me to come into the office again. I'll paraphrase because a lot has been said. Hi, OP. Don't worry, you're not in any trouble. I just saw your CV and noticed you've had a lot of experience in customer service. Yes, I used to be a cashier for almost 5 years. It was my first job. Why? I've seen your file, your CV, and how you managed the conversation. We're actually looking for a new customer service manager since we had to let her go. What about my actual position? It's easier to find a fruits and vegetables commis than it is to find a competent service manager. As you're experienced. I ended up accepting the position, and all my coworkers cheered for my raise. I don't want to brag, but I've always been the one to defend everybody in the place, making sure I'll keep my job in the process and following the laws and rights. A few months later, she came back to the store as a customer, and the look she had on her face when she saw me at the cash with the manager uniform was priceless. It was even more priceless when she asked me when I got the promotion, and I told her the exact date, which matched her departure.
So you got my position when I left?
I just nodded and asked if I could do anything more to help her have a better experience in the store. She didn't answer that and just left after paying for her things. To this day, it's still one of my favorite moments to have been through. I'm not a petty person, but if I can ruin you in the process of me trying to defend my people, I'll be more than happy to do so. Last I'd heard, she was working for a competitor, but never had any promotions. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream, episode 355. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please hit the like button, share the video with friends and family. If you want early access to these videos, that's very easy to get. Support me on my Patreon page for as little as $1 or more a month. You'll find a link to that in the description, as well as links to the Hellfreezer merchandise store on Teespring and the Hellfreezer Discord server. And if you really enjoyed today's video, then why not leave a tip? Do that by clicking on the heart with a $sign underneath the video. But that is not required and never is, although I very much appreciate it, and it really does help. Okay, no other bits of business today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, and this one comes from moderator Ashley. Do you consider your ears a part of your face? No, I consider them part of my head. Other answers are available, although really, if you want to think about it, I suppose my ears are part of my face. My face is ultimately a part of the cosmos and always has been. From the dawn of time, really, as nothing new can be created or destroyed, only transformed from one form into another, and I should probably go make dinner. Anyway, let me know what your answers are in a comment below. And before we go, let's have the answer of the day from a previous video. Not the previous video, because that hasn't been published by the time I actually record this, but a previous video. And today's answer comes from Revenge is Ice Cream, episode 353. And this question was in relation to what was your reaction to, no thanks, I don't really need it, whenever something happened in an extreme manner, when you got more of something than you wanted, when you actually wanted nothing. It was a really badly phrased question. I thought of it myself. And today's answer comes from Dust Warden. I react that way to a lot of movie franchises anymore, but looking beyond the world of media, those garish feather flag stores put along the road to advertise their wares. I'm sure they do help to draw at least a little business to smaller stores, especially in strip malls, but forests of them lining the streets is just an ugly look. Thank you so much for your answer, Dust Warden. And with that, I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.